Welcome back, guys. My name is Thompson and I'm carrying on from the pyro smoke effect in Houdini 16. This is part 2. We are going to be doing the shading for the simulation we did in the last tutorial. So if you guys want to go ahead and just quickly go on to the materials, uh, and I'm just going to make a new material real quick. So I'm just going to delete that off the pyrosin that's already on there, and we're going to grab the fireball and we're going to just drop it onto that. It should come off here, and it has. If you guys want to quickly go into your render view, and if you haven't already got a render, create one to the Matra, and select it, just go down here and click on there. At the moment, this is what it looks like. Just pixelated. That's not what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to up the density scale of the smoke to 5. You'll see a bit of difference, not too much, but just a little bit. So yeah, you got that. We can now go change the color of the smoke. I just want to make it a little bit darker, not too dark. Then we want to come down to fire. Change it from ramp to physical black body. This basically makes the fire and the smoke look as realistic as possible, I believe anyway. You want to change the intensity of the fire to around about 3. The temperature scale to around about we'll go with 4 at the moment. I'll tell you what all these do in a second. We'll just quickly get through everything and then we'll come back and whiz over what things do. Awesome. So we're going to change this to around about 6,000. Nice. Okay. We're going to come over to the next tab, smoke field. And this basically does all to do with there's all the settings for the smoke. So here, I tend not to touch the noise. I don't know why. I don't think it gives the full realism of what smoke should be. I just tend to stick with this. I know for a fact that if I just change this to 100, the density should fairly be the right kind of density. As you can see now, this is a good example. You can't see anything, it's just grey. There's no shadows or anything in there, and to be honest, it looks terrible. So what we want to do real quickly is come up to the tab, go into light and cameras, and you just want to add in a light. You can add in a directional light. I tend to just go for the skylight. It's just quick and easy to import. See the viewport change. Okay, and if you want to just go back into the render view, and we'll see what has changed. And as you can see, a lot has changed. It looks a lot more realistic. You've got the shadows in there. You've got the light from the sun. Yeah, and you've also got it on the rocket launcher itself as well. You've got some of the shadows there, but we're not seeing any fire at the moment, which is not what we want. We want to actually see some fire. So we're going to come into the fire intensity field. We're going to just ignore the shape. We're going to leave it as default. Don't want to touch that. We're going to come into noise. We're going to enable this. And you should notice something if it wants to load for us. Okay, so there you go. You can see there is a little bit of fire in there, but I think we could do with a bit more. I'm just going to bump these up to 10. 10 by 10 by 10. And this will hopefully show a lot more fire. So there you go. So at the moment it's getting there. It doesn't look perfect yet, but it will do. So if we come to the fire temperature field, basically what this does is the higher it goes, so say if I go to, let's go to 5, don't even need to go that high, but all the red and the fire will just go white. So you got like where the fire is at the moment, it's going a lot lighter. So if I bump it up to 10, it should be, most of it should be white. So there you go. So you got it all white there. Even the smoke's starting to develop fire, shall I say, which we don't want. So I'm going to leave that at 1.5. So there you go. That's good enough. If you want to make it a little bit brighter, you can change it to 2 maybe. It's up to you. Personal preference. So if you come down to general, the density scale adds in more smoke. So if we bump this up to 10, you'll see there's a lot more smoke that appears. There you go. It's darker colour as well. I like to leave it on around about 5 to 10. So I'm going to leave it there. Intensity scale. So if I bump this up to 10 for the fire, you should see a lot of difference. So it's brighter, it's more red. We don't really want that, so we'll just leave it around about 3 to 5. So if we put that on 3, see what it is. Could do with a little bit more. Let's bump it back up to 5. Okay, so we'll leave it at 5 for the moment. If you come down to temperature scale, what we're just going to do is we're just going to boost this up to whatever 2.93, and you should see what it does. There's a very similar thing to the fire temperature field by making it a lot more brighter. So you can mess around with this. You bring it down to whatever you fancy. So that at the moment looks quite nice if you're not looking for much smoke, but if you're looking for a lot of smoke, just take the temperature scale down and then you got more smoke in the last fire. I like to keep it around about 0.3. So at the moment that's like you got a fair amount of fire but also a decent amount of smoke as well. The colour temperature, quickly just show you, basically gets rid or gains a lot of the fire as well. It doesn't exactly make it brighter, but it just adds more to, like takes up more of the smoke, or if you want to turn it down less, it takes less of the smoke away and it's just not very much there. But I kind of like to leave it around about 5,000 to 6,000. So if we turn it back to 6,000, see, I quite like that. Leave it at that. We're just going to mess around with this. See what this does. If it wants to load for us. So in this one, you turn it down, it gets rid of a lot of the colour from the fire. Turn it up, you get a lot more red. So it's personal preference, but for a realistic fire you don't want too much red because it's just not realistic. So if we turn this down, Let's put it on to 0.2. Maybe too much. 0.15. We'll leave it at. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. And that's basically it. Best thing to do is just go around, mess around with the settings. Um, it varies in, say, if you've changed the pyro simulation a little bit, it might be different for you guys. If you followed the whole tutorial, you'll have what I've got now, which I think looks alright at the moment. I might end up going back in, changing a little pieces and here and there and all this lot, but it's just experimenting, guys. What I do recommend is maybe having a look more into the shadow, because just adds that more bit of detail to it. You might not see it that much with just 2, adding 1 to it. If it wants to load for us, yeah, you can't really see much, but after I've done the missile tutorial with the trail coming back out of the missile end of it, of the end of the missile, Matt will go over a lighting and rendering tutorial, and that will change quite a bit of what this would look like. So I wouldn't worry too much about what it looks like now, but more when you come to that tutorial. So that's it from me, guys. I'll see you guys in the missile tutorial.